Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Jupiter's CROCK here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. We are on our 39 episode journey of rewatching the Spartacus series, and I forgot to mention, guys, there was a piece of breaking news that happened this week. They're making more Spartacus, and I forgot to mention it on the last episode. We're going to mention it here real quick. I'm going to throw it to you first, Ronan. Stephen DeKnight's coming back. He's going back to the Spartacus well. The news is it's a new series supposed to take place after War of the Damned, I think, but it's going to use characters from this series. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe Gannicus comes back at some point. I don't know.
Caesar.
What are your thoughts? Oh, I love that Caesar thing.
Well, you see, I got an explanation for what happened. I've got some deep insider knowledge as to exactly what happened. You see, what went wrong was that Stephen the Knight, he's been in a horrible, deep depression ever since he completely ass-fucked the Pacific Rim franchise with that last movie. That's just weighed on his conscience heavily because he just destroyed this great, promising franchise. So he's been in this deep, depressed well.
No one looked at Pacific Rim and said, promising franchise.
I did. Shut the fuck up. I'm talking. So what happened was that he needed a little bit of a pick me up. So he went back to he went to YouTube and he Googled the one thing that brought him joy, Spartacus. And what popped up? Our show. And hearing that made him think, I need to do more of this. So we did it, lads. We did it. Insert the little horn sound effects. We did it. We got more Spartacus.
It's a good thing we started with Gods of the Arena, because we have not been praising Blood and Sand to this point.
I will point out that Stephen Knight, yes, I mean, I have not seen Pacific Rim Uprising. Everyone tells me it's terrible. But the thing that he did before that was the first season of Daredevil on Netflix, which I think we can all agree is pretty great. I'm looking at his IMDb right now. Steve, you might like this. He wrote a bunch of episodes of Smallville. I know you were a big Smallville fan.
I was.
15 episodes of that.
Yeah, there's just a lot of crossover between Spartacus and DC properties, because so many of the actors in the show wound up in the Arrowverse.
That's very true. That is very true. What are your thoughts on a new Spartacus series, Steve?
I feel like the only possible thing they could do is Caesar, maybe Crassus, but I mean, even back when Spartacus originally ended, there were rumors that there would be a show about Caesar, and if they're going to set it after the events of Spartacus, who do they have? It's Crassus or it's Caesar. I would not be opposed to the beginning of episode 1 of this new series being, spoilers, someone sneaking up to Gannicus and getting him down from the cross. But they have very limited options if they want to both make it a sequel and have returning characters.
It's got to be like an alternative history sort of thing, I would have to assume. And also, I mean, there's got to be a time jump because it's been like over 10 years since that last season. Everyone is noticeably aged at this point. You're not just going to make it out like you're not just going to pull like a Book of Boba Fett and he just magically became a 200-pound 50-year-old man. Like you're not going to be able to
ages a man, Ronan.
You're not just there's no Sarlacc to age a man. Good point, Steve. So, I don't know how it's got to be an alternative history sort of thing, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Spartacus fans like us are confused by the returning characters. Like, the way the press...
The two returning characters?
Yeah, the way the press release came out, it was just like, well, wait a minute. How are you going to take anybody from what happened at the end of Spartacus and bring them forward? Because we know the history.
Is the story of Agron being a farmer once he made it over the mountains?
I don't know. I'm excited to see whatever it is, though. I'm gonna be there when we'll do a show about it, folks.
Well, that means down the road, Jupiter's CROCK will extend beyond its original 39 episodes.
Yes. Assuming this actually gets made, but I hope it does because we haven't got there yet, folks, with this, but the show turns out to be an all-timer. So I have a good faith. Seeing ancient Romans with sex and violence, it never gets old. Never gets old. So that's the piece of news that's out there. Let us know in the comments section down below. What do you think of this new Spartacus series? What do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be a Caesar-focused thing with the same actor from back in the day that was Caesar? I mean, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. So with that, we are going to get into episode 3, titled Legends. And I think, as far as we're concerned, this might be the last quote unquote bad episode of Spartacus.
It's the last
So
one that we remember being kind of rough.
yes, so we will dive into it. Ploticus, what do we got here?
This episode is another collection of random events that somehow get tied together at the end, but it opens with Spartacus being a dickbag again, because he successfully beats one of the other brand new recruits, and he's immediately like, well, "Fuck you, I'm better than you." Onomaeus is telling him like, "Look, Spartacus, you left yourself wide open to an attack a million times. You got lucky that you beat this guy." And Spartacus is like, "No, fuck him. He sucks." Again, Spartacus is terrible at this point in the
Yeah.
series.
I mean, although he's not wrong, because this is the fugitive guy. I forgot that this guy passed the test somehow.
I don't think we saw his test. We saw Vero, the guy that Barca killed, and Spartacus.
Yeah. How did he pass this?
I don't know.
Maybe
They
he's
just decided it happened off screen.
They needed somebody for him to beat up, and for somebody to fall down the rabbit hole with him.
I agree.
Continue.
It's hard to carry about Spartacus right now. I'm just kind of like, ugh, God,
Yeah.
come on, dude.
So there's games. There's going to be, what's it called? Like the
Vulcanalia?
Vulcanalia. There are going to be games, and Badiatus is responsible for providing the gladiators for the games. And so there's a bunch of things going on, but just the main point of this episode is Spartacus wants to fight Crixus. Spartacus needs to make money as a gladiator and impress Badiatus to get Badiatus to keep his end of the deal, which is finding Spartacus's wife. And so the roster for the Vulcanalia is released, and Crixus is going to be fighting Gnaeus in the main event, and Spartacus is fighting Vero in like the opener. And so this whole episode is about Spartacus trying to scheme his way into the main event against Crixus. So keep that in mind as we talk about everything else that's happening here. There's before the games, there's going to be this big event and feast, and Alithia's hanging out.
Yum.
Yes, yum indeed, but things that are not yum. Xena has learned nothing from Gods of the Arena, because it turns out 5 years later she is still putting on sex shows involving gladiators and slaves.
Well, she
And
has
so
changed. I took this as, whatever that 2 to 3 year period was between Gods of the Arena and this, where Badiatus and Lucretia were like on top of the world. She's gotten a taste for the finer things in life, and she doesn't care about.
She has
She doesn't care
become
about
bad.
anything now. Yeah,
She
she's
was
become Gaia.
somewhat innocent, yes. Oh, and Gaia wasn't even this evil, or at least when Gaia was being evil, she had a smile on her face. Like Lucy Lawless, like changes from like innocent Lucy Lawless to like very stern Lucy Lawless when she
What do you-
knows that she's about to do something terrible.
Can you imagine being Rob Tappert? Like, that's her husband. Like, if she gives you that,
I'm going
look
to
when you're in the
imagine that
house.
tonight.
if Lucy Lawless, like if you piss off Lucy Lawless at home, and she gives you that look, like, what are you doing?
You apologize profusely and you buy that woman whatever she wants to make amends.
That's the look
Anyways.
that says she's gonna fuck you tonight. That's what that look says.
Anyways, Alithia has come back to the Ludus because Alithia has now like really like
thirsty
taken,
for gladiators.
yeah, thirsty for gladiators. And Badiatus and Xena have talked about this, and they think this is their end. Like Glaber shot them down when he was there in the last episode, but Xena thinks that, hey, I can befriend Alithia, and then I can get Alithia to convince Glaber to give us patronage. So hey, let's continue with our schemes. But Alithia shows up, and Alithia is not really impressed. She's like, oh, this is kind of boring. This kind of sucks. I'm gonna leave. But Xena's like, well, hey, what if I had Vero fuck a slave for you? And so they go.
As you
And
do.
they go and they have another sex showing for the benefit of Lithia and these other wealthy Romans.
The
And so
pleasures of the House of Batiago.
yes, and
So this is
so
what the
they have
second
learned
sex
nothing
orgy of the
from
show.
Gods of the Arena.
Well, I think no. It's not that they've learned nothing. They've learned that the Romans really love orgies, so like that's what they're focusing on.
But they
You want
also
money.
should learn that a bunch of orgies led to people dying, including people they care about.
Well, I feel like they.
They've had years to perfect the art of throwing orgies.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's they're in Gods of the Arena. They were basically fucking with like a mafia head, who's like, I'm gonna go kill people. I don't think the general Roman elite are gonna be like that's evil and killing people. I don't think they have to worry about the Roman elite coming after them now that what's his face is bricked up in the
Tullius.
Tullius bricked up in there. No one's gonna fuck with them now. Now they just want coin, Steve. They just want
Yes.
coin.
So the Alithia and Xena frenemy moment of this episode is Xena is trying to find like a super high quality necklace to impress Alithia with, and so prior to this big party, uh, Xena purchases this like emerald necklace, and then at the party, she kind of like moves in such a way to kind of show off the necklace in front of Alithia, and Alithia's like, "Oh, that's pretty. That would have been awesome years ago when people cared about emeralds," and just completely shuts her the fuck down.
Perhaps
It's
I'll have to break mine out.
such a perfect flippant way too. Oh God, I love that woman. She's great.
Yep. So again, there's a bunch of random things but that kind of set up like future things in the series. This is the first time that we see in Blood and Sand. This is the first time that we see Crixus and Xena have sex. I remember back in Gods of the Arena, Xena was horrified by this. Like she wanted no part of any of the slaves, but now she is
She's
very
totally
happy.
into it.
She is
I want
very
your cock in me
happy.
now.
Yes, she is very happy to fuck Crixus, and Crixus
He's
at
over it.
least pretends to be happy
He's over it.
because he has developed feelings for Navia, who is Xena's body slave, like the main slave that follows Xena around all the time. So they learn about there's so many random things that happen in this episode. Spartacus continues to be an asshole and gets himself in trouble with Doctore, and so Doctore puts Spartacus in and Vero in the hole, and literally they are just standing in waist deep shit while additional shit gets dumped on top of them. And so
Poor
Spartacus,
Vero.
poor
It wasn't even
Vero.
Vero's fault. He didn't.
Yeah. Vero did nothing. He just happened to be next to Spartacus when Spartacus was mouthing off to Hymenaeus. But these two, somehow, when they're standing in waist deep shit, they bond because they're both doing this for their families. Spartacus is trying to get Sura back. Vero has debts that his family is responsible for. And he says, I'm gonna be a gladiator for 2 years, and then I'm going to leave, which I'm a little fuzzy on how that works. Did he sign a contract
Yes,
to be a
it's contract.
slave?
Yeah.
All right,
It's a
so
contract.
he's going to be a slave for 2 years, and then he is going to leave. And with his gladiator winnings, he will pay off his debts and reunite with his family. So these two have bonded now.
I will point out that this scene is where I love Vero because even though he's standing in shit because of Spartacus, you can't not like this guy. He doesn't try, like if it were one of you guys and I was in this, I'd probably try to strangle you in the shit. Like, I'd be so pissed off.
The shit.
But the shit. You got the shit? I got the shit. But Vero is so fucking likable in this that even though he's kind of pissed off, he's fine.
He's pissed off in a charming way.
Yes, he's like, God damn it! I understand. We're friends, we're buddies, but man, I'm in the shit right now.
Yeah, I love Vero. I remember distinctly when I first watched this show. I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in, and Matt's like, "Who's your favorite gladiator so far?" I was like, "Oh, I really like Vero," and Matt just goes,
Oh.
Spoilers for a couple episodes from now. Anyways, other Spartacus being an asshole points in this episode. Spartacus they're doing like drills. Onomaus is having them do like drills, just normal sword swings, shield blocking, whatnot. Spartacus decides, fuck that noise, I'm Spartacus, and so he takes the time to ignore Onomaus's orders and like tighten the purple ribbon around his wrist again, and Onomaus calls him out on it, and so Spartacus starts mouthing off to Onomaus. And so Aeneas is like, or Spartacus is trying to be like, I'm Thracian. I'm a master warrior. I am so badass. And Oenomaus says, Thrace is a swamp of piss, and he whips his dick out and pisses right in front of Spartacus, and then he kicks Spartacus down in it. And then Crixus says, perhaps I should shit to complete the scent. Everyone is shitting on Spartacus right now, and it's great.
Yeah, and it makes you like these other guys.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
much more.
So that's most of the randomness. So let's get back to the main plot. And the main plot is Spartacus wants to fight Crixus in the main event, and so Spartacus antagonizes Gnaeus. He starts talking. Gnaeus has the net, and Gnaeus is the only net user in the House of Batiatus, and he was very upset to have to learn the net back
He's
in.
very sensitive about it.
Yes, he's very sensitive about it. He was very unhappy to learn the net back in Gods of the Arena, but now 5 years later, he's apparently really good at it because he got the top spot next to Crixus. But he's still real sensitive about it because Spartacus tells him, like, "Oh, you look so cute and with your little net, just like a wet woman." And so Gnaeus charges Spartacus, and Spartacus just steps out of the way, and Gnaeus like cracks his head on this wooden post.
I mean, why didn't Gnaeus use his net on Spartacus? That would have been amazing.
I mean, you kind of also, it's like, okay, so so Spartacus is like several tiers below even Gnaeus at this point. You would think, because like Gnaeus had this shit coming. He just charges. He doesn't dodge out of the. He can't see a simple dodge.
Gnaeus is an idiot.
Yeah, Gnaeus is stupid.
Apparently, he was good enough to take the second point.
He was getting pity thrown at him. It was he's like 5 years. I guess we'll let him have this.
Like who can like last a couple of minutes with Crixus to appease the crowd, and then we'll just have Crixus killed. There is this great scene where when Oenomaus announces the Primus, Crixus is announced, and Crixus steps up, and Crixus is the badass. I don't know what's happening behind me in my house. Some shit just fell over back there. Anyways, so Crixus is like he's there. He's gonna honor the House of Batiatus because he is in the main event, and then they announce Gnaeus, and he and Gnaeus get up and they do this big like bro handshake. And Crixus tells Gnaeus, "Don't die too quickly," and Gnaeus laughs, "Ha ha ha! I will fuck your corpse." And then they laugh again, and then Crixus says, "With what cock?" And everybody is just laughing. This is just normal gladiator bro shit.
The dialogue in this show is amazing.
It is. So what else happened? They use this episode to give a lot of backstory. Like they talk about Crixus became the champion in the undefeated Gaul because he won a 1-on-2 match against these like very like animalistic brothers that were terrorizing Rome. They talk about
the thing about this is Spartacus doesn't really believe, again, pointing to how like stupid his character is at this point. He doesn't actually believe that any of these guys are really badasses.
He thinks all of them are on the same level as like the 4 Salonius guys that he beat in the first episode. Yeah. Spartacus is not impressed with the gladiators.
Yeah, and even Vero, because I think Vero mentions Barca. He's like, Barca's a legend. Because Barca, we see the pigeons again. And Spartacus is like, I want to eat that fucking pigeon.
By the way, a very, very important thing. Barca is in a new relationship with, is it Petros is that guy's name?
Petros, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Pietros is Barca's new lover. And Pietros is played by a guy named, I think, Ika Darville, who, of course, is famous for playing the Red Ranger from Power Rangers RPM. So I'm going to hit you with some Power Ranger facts throughout the rest of the series because
I remember him from being Jessica Jones.
This is not the first Power Rangers crossover in Spartacus, or it's not the last. Look forward to that Power Ranger fact in the middle of Spartacus.
Maybe we'll get
Yeah,
that
so
crossover YouTube viewership.
yes. So we get Barca's backstory, and Barca was captured with like 100 of his people, and he is thrown in the arena, and it's basically all 100 people are just
Battle
fighting.
Royale.
Yeah, battle royale. And so the last two people are Barca and like the chief of Barca's I don't know, warrior group, and so Barca wins, and so Spartacus is like, he killed an old man, who cared, and Vero's like, that was
He
his
sat on a
dad.
throne of
He
blood.
killed he killed his dad in the arena, and Spartacus is like, okay, maybe I'm a little impressed now.
Fucking killed Conan, man. He's a legend.
Yes,
He's a legend.
it's like the tribe king sat on a throne of blood.
Yep. So Spartacus has been told the backstory of Crixus and the backstory of Barca. He still does not give two shits about them, but he's enacted stage one of his plan, which is getting Gnaeus knocked out of the main event. And so now we're at the part. We're at the party, and and this is shortly after Vero has gone to put on a show with a slave girl. But Vero says to Spartacus, "Hey, I heard Badiatus and Onomaus discussing the main event. Who's going to fill in for Gnaeus? And it's not you." And so Spartacus is like, for fuck, I got to figure out something. And Vero's like, I see that look in your eyes. Whatever you're fucking about to do, don't fucking do it.
Because I will end up in this shit again.
Yeah, Vero doesn't want to end up in the hole again. And so Badiatus is getting ready to announce the Primus. So it's going to be Crixus against, and before Badiatus can say the second person, Spartacus just fucking attacks Crixus. And so they are fighting each other, and Badiatus, he has to roll with it. And so he was like, oh yeah, look at the hatred between these two people. Show up tomorrow at the Vulcanalia and we'll watch these two fight to the death. And so Xena is very upset because Xena is not a fan of Spartacus at this point. She just wants to like fucking kill him and go about their lives. And if the patronage is going to be earned, it will be earned through Alithia. But Badiatus is like, no, I paid a lot of money for him. I am going to get something out of this. I'm pissed off that he did this, but he also attracted interest, and that's good for us. So now the main event at the Primus, the main event at the Vulcanalia is going to be Crixus versus Spartacus, which is what Spartacus has worked for throughout this entire episode. And so we get to the final fight. Vero has already gone through his match and he has won, and he wishes Spartacus's luck. And then Spartacus goes out to fight Crixus, and Spartacus fucking sucks. All he does is swing his sword back and forth repeatedly to the point where even Alithia, who knows nothing about fighting, is like, really? Is that all Spartacus does? And then so
he does not know how to put on a show for the crowd.
No,
and
he knows
Crixus
nothing.
is sitting there chuckling at him and laughing. Crixus is having a great time.
Crixus immediately knows this, and Crixus knew from the beginning that Spartacus was no match for him, but Spartacus didn't believe him. And so Crixus fights Spartacus, beats him down, and he's got, Spartacus is down. He's got the sword to Spartacus, and he looks back at Badiatus, looking for the permission to kill, and Spartacus puts up the missio. He puts up the two fingers, and for some stupid fucking reason, Badiatus actually says, you know what? Spare him. This drives me nuts when I go back and watch this episode. Just the fucking stupidity. Badiatus, this incredibly intelligent person, all throughout Gods of the Arena and through these first couple of episodes, he does the dumbest thing that he does throughout the entire series. He spares Spartacus for no particular fucking reason. He says that he paid a lot for Spartacus, and so presumably he still wants to make something out of him. But then we find out next episode, no, that's not true either. He was just going to throw him in the pit. Fuck this episode. I hate it.
So I'm gonna intervene here and do a little wrestling play-by-play. See what was going on here is Badiatus fell into the trap that a lot of wrestling bookers did back in the territory days when they were desperate to get eyes back into their territory. Hot shot booking. Threw together a match that he didn't do enough to build up the match. He didn't spend like weeks getting the crowds interested for the pay-per-view to help buy up the ramp up the buy rate and the ticket sales. No, he hot shotted this match together so that way he could get like one good event. And then he books a dusty finish and pisses off the crowd so nobody goes home happy. Meanwhile, I don't know if the show does this later on. I think we get this weird camera angle like one or two more times, but it doesn't carry over through the whole show. Like most of this show's art style is, even if they don't want to admit it, like this is like clearly they're amping a lot of style from 300, except for the weird Iron Man helmet vision that happens in this
Yeah,
episode.
I also thought of Iron Man when
yeah.
I
That's
saw
what I
that.
thought.
That's exactly what it is, and I think it happens maybe one more episode, but then and I'm not even sure if it happens again. It's like they were. I give them props. They wanted to try something,
I
and
think
I
they
think they
wanted a way for them to see, for the audience to see the faces, like when they get hit with the sword, they're like their reactions, because those helmets are so big you can't see anything.
yeah. It's like then they just make the smart decision of okay, well either A, we're going to give them helmets that let us see their faces, or B, they just don't wear fucking helmets.
Well, I think pretty soon after this, they they chain they change Spartacus's fighting style to where he no longer uses a helmet. And I don't know that we ever see Crixus in a helmet after that point either. But they do kind of, in a roundabout way, make that problem go away soon. But what actually happens at the end of this episode, after Spartacus just embarrasses himself and Batiatus saves him for some stupid reason, because even like the Roman like magistrate is like, this is stupid, like you have
Everyone's
lost the
pissed.
crowd,
They show
you have ruined
Lucretia
these
too.
games.
Lucretia looks at him like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
And I
Like,
don't get it, like
It's
why did
like
he
this is
rescue Spartacus here?
I got
this
to imagine it's just because he still thinks that he can get something out of Glaber. Like maybe he'll get Glaber's patronage if Spartacus is still alive and Glaber can kill him himself if he wants. I don't know. I mean, maybe Glaber told Batiatus, "Hey man, I want this guy to suffer long and hard, so keep him suffering for me."
like
I don't know. There
I,
was no reason for Batiatus to offer the Mizio, but he does, and so the end of the episode is Spartacus finally humbled. He's like sitting in this room, like slowly taking off his armor because he's beat to shit. And then Onomaus comes in, and Spartacus is like Crixus has earned his reputation. He is the real fucking deal. Like I couldn't do anything against him. He is so good. And Onomaus is like, no, he's not. There were like 10 different ways that you could have won that match. You just didn't focus on training, and so you couldn't do any of that. And Spartacus is like, I will train harder. And Onomaus is like, no, you won't. And that sets up the next episode.
ominous foreshadowing. Yeah, the only thing I can think of for why Batiatus' dumbass decision, there's no good it's plot armor. That's like it's the worst kind of thing. It's blatant plot armor that there's no plot explanation for it. Like Batiatus does it because do you want a show or not? And that's the worst kind of writing. There's no like there needed to be some kind of other reason. Like we find out that Batiatus is in like a lot worse financial straits than we think, or like
But isn't in the next episode? Doesn't Batiatus take him down in the pit specifically because Batiatus is trying to win a bunch of money off Spartacus?
yeah,
Like,
that's
yes,
yeah.
Spartacus might die,
Yeah,
but at least he's going to try to make back as much as he's spent.
but
on it.
I think my argument would be there's no way that Batiatus is going to make more money in the pit than what he would lose by pissing off the entire audience of this Vulcanalia games.
Well,
We
he's got
haven't
that
got
guy who wants his money with 30%.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the pit episode yet, but I do recall that that was like that was also part of the thing. It's like he need like because Spartacus lost the interest that people had in him after fighting four people, and so Batiatus' thing was like, yeah, you're not at this point you're not a gladiator. You're just gonna I'm just gonna put you in like basically pride fighting, like Fight Club shit, like and make some and bet on you there, and then maybe you'll win back like the interest of like Capua that way. That like that's but that's the next episode where he gives that
Yeah.
explanation.
And we do see multiple times throughout this show that Batiatus, for even what like you mentioned, I think it was in the last episode, Steve, Onimaeus is like, Spartacus has nothing. Like, I can't do anything with this guy. And it's Badiatus is like, no, I see something. I see something in this guy. He has the eye for great gladiators, and they set that up. Even Gods of the Arena. At this point, we don't know if you haven't seen Gods of the Arena, but yes, Badiatus has the eye to find great gladiators, and I think he. I mean, they don't necessarily explain this very well in the show, which I think is to its detriment, but it could be based on what we know of Batiatus. He's just like, I know this guy can be great. I witnessed him take down 4 gladiators at once. And he mentions, I think, in the last episode, where he's talking to Onimaeus, where he's just like, how do we get this guy to like focus and like calm down? And Onimaeus is like, I don't think we can. I mean, hey, take this weird thigh cloth and try to bribe him or something like that. But nobody really thinks that Spartacus can, he's just, a crazed bull in a china shop or something like that. Like, he's got to be sort of reined in, and maybe, and again, I'm just giving the benefit of the doubt here that maybe this is what the writers were thinking all along. And unfortunately, there was no audio commentary on this episode. Otherwise, it would have been great to hear what their opinion was. But maybe it's like Badiatus does not want to give up on his thing, right? He's got this guy. He saw something in this guy. He spent all this money on it, but it's Badiatus. He will not give up unless he absolutely has to give up.
But he
And
was ready to give up when Spartacus was in the midst of failing the gladiator test.
you know what? You
Like I
got
said,
me.
plot
I don't
armor.
know.
Well, it's plot armor. He went he survives because he has to for there to be a next episode.
I could. It would be a dumb argument, but I could accept an argument if they tried to establish that as awful as Body Otis is, he still has like a little bit of a little bit of honor and respect towards gladiator traditions, and so he's gonna respect the missio, but they do nothing. He was happy to let Crixus kill Spartacus the other day, at the test when no one would have cared, but
Well,
he's going to save Spartacus when it's going to piss off all of the people that he needs in order to
devil's
pay his bills.
devil's advocate here. When he was ready to let Spartacus die, when he was taking the test, I think he would have had to have let him die at that point in time, because if he would have just saved him right there or given like, no, 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 don't kill him, I think he would have lost the respect of all of those gladiators, right? Every gladiator was watching that, witnessing that. So I think in that moment, he had to be like, okay, well, he's just got to go. In this moment, he doesn't necessarily have to do that.
He's just willing to piss off everyone that would be willing to give him the money that he needs.
Yes,
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
think he's scheming long term, right? Maybe he thinks in his mind, okay, this is the most, because we even like Spartacus starts the fight in the gladiator ring before Badiatus is even done giving his like oration, right? He hasn't even told the crowd like exactly who all these people are, what's going to happen here, and Spartacus just starts fighting, causing like all this embarrassment. Even the magistrate's like, no, that was not supposed to happen here. So I'm just going to personally believe in my head canon that Batiatus is like, okay, this is super embarrassing. I see something in this guy. I'm either going to get my money back in the pit, however much I spent on him, or he's going to die, and that'll be it. And I'll parade his body to Glaber and hopefully try to get Glaber's patronage through that way. Glaber will be happy. Alithia will be happy. Everyone will be happy. Let me scheme a little bit ahead. But it's not put that way in the show. You kind of have to just go with it. In my head, that's how it works.
There's no
Crixus
explanation.
has a
It's
crush
plot
on
armor.
Navia. I think that's the only thing that we didn't talk about.
It gives her a necklace, right? Or
Yes.
He
bracelet or
offers her
something?
one. Yeah, he
Yeah.
offers her one. I can't remember if she declined it or not.
He had to give Asher a lot of coin for that, because again, Asher's a man who knows how to get things.
Anyways, I
yeah.
thought this episode was real bad. But I'm so excited for next week's episode.
I didn't think this episode was bad. I actually like kind of enjoyed this episode. If I was gonna rate it like on a 10-point scale, I'd probably give this maybe a 7. I definitely think a lot of the Spartacus stuff is just kind of insufferable. I mean, I'm just like I'm not on board with this character yet. But I do like, again, I like all the stuff that's building around it. I like Body Odyssey schemes, and I like all the other characters. I'm invested in the other gladiators. I love Vero. The story that's being told, aside, like set aside Spartacus's personality and what he's trying to do, I like all the other stuff. I like sort of seeing, the how Crixus became sort of the champion of Capua, and I think that 300 style that they kind of got away from after episode 1, that works for like weird flashbacks like that. I like that hyper stylized arena because they're talking about legends, right? The episode's called Legends, and even when the gladiators are telling the stories, it's like, well, Ronan's a fisherman. You tell some tall tales, right? You don't exactly know what was real and what was not, but it starts building up this mythical story. That you caught the biggest fish out there, and then it got away and tipped your boat over and shit like that.
Speaking of stories, there's one person's background that comes up in the show that we forgot to talk about, and that is Onomaus. Onomaus is the only
Yes,
person to survive a fight with Theocles, who is like the
Theocles.
shadow of death. And the story is Theocles is 10 feet tall and the ground trembles beneath him, and people just die at the mere sight of him. And in the flashback, that we don't see Theocles, but we see his victim, and so Theocles slashes one time, and this guy goes flying, and he's cut in half at the waist, and his arms have been removed.
And I like all of that. Like all of that kind of world building sort of stuff with all of these characters that I know I'm going to love just a couple episodes down the line. I love all of that. My biggest complaints with these first 3 episodes, it's just Spartacus. It's Spartacus, his personality, how he goes about doing his business, which I disagree with. But everything else I kind of like, honestly. Ronan, what do you think about Legends?
It's not as bad as the second episode, but again, this is not a good one. It has some good moments in it. Yeah, we like Steve touched upon it briefly, but like we're establishing now that Crixus has got a thing for Navia, and there is a moment where Crixus is being summoned, for his duties, finger quotes for his duties, and he's trying to
You
flirt
said
with her.
fingering duties for him.
Finger quotes.
What a rough life for Crixus, man.
but
You've
he's
been
trying.
summoned to Xena's chamber to please her. Damn it, again.
But he's trying to like flirt with Navia, and he has no fucking clue how to do it, and he's just sitting
Yeah.
here trying to talk about how
I know the feeling.
he's just
When he's trying to impress her, and he's like, it's really hard to chop the head off of a man. You gotta get the
That's
right angle. Like, what?
Bizarrely enough, in that moment, I saw flashes of like young Kratos from like God of War. But yeah, like it's like so there are moments in this that are good, but they don't make the whole episode good. They just keep it from being like trash. It's not a good episode.
I slightly disagree. I actually think I liked this episode, certainly more than the first 2, but I think just overall, I'd be like, yeah, I like this one. Not great, not anything. I wouldn't put it anywhere near my top 20 favorite Spartacus episodes, but I'm like, I can get behind this one. I can get behind. I love the ending. I love the fact that Onomaus told Spartacus, like, you could have beat him 10 times over. Like, because he's watching, right? He's watching everything. And Onomaus is a fighter. He is a gladiator. And it's like, it doesn't matter that this guy's the champion, dude. I just watched it. You could have beat him 10 times over, but you don't pay any attention to me and you don't listen. You're too, stubborn, for lack of a better term. And that's what cost you, And again, it's that hubris, it's that humility, which we really see come to fruition in the next episode, which is why I think that, that's what we consider the first great episode of Spartacus that we saw. But we'll get to that. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, The Thing in the Pit. What did you guys think about episode 3, Legends? Did you think it kind of sucked? Did you think it was all right? Let us know down in the comments. We'll be back next week. Gushing profusely, hopefully, about this show really getting on track now for the next, I don't know, 33 more episodes or however long it was.
Or at the very least, not going, well, this one wasn't good.
Yeah, I distinctly remember loving this episode because I think, Steve, I think I told you, I was like,
Yes.
you just got to get to episode 4.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that you've got to make it. I don't know if you told me the title or episode 4, but you warned me that episodes 1, 2, and 3 were bad, and I thought back and I don't feel like you poisoned the well. I think that 1, 2, and 3 were actually that bad.
Yeah. But I guess back in the day, yes, I was disappointed with them. But now that I've seen Gods of the Arena, and I'm just sort of like enveloped in these characters, Badiatus, Lucretia, and even good Salonius and stuff, it's like I have this backstory now, and I've seen this story that happened before that's giving me more context. I'm looking at the first 3 episodes less critically than I did, 13 years ago or whatever when this first came out. So I'm still not saying they're great. The first 3 episodes are clearly not good overall, but I'm looking at it less critically than you guys, I think. But stay tuned next week, folks. We'll be back with The Thing in the Pits.